Hello everybody and welcome to another of my videos on UK politics. Today I'm going to introduce pressure groups that are an important set of organisations that play a key role in enabling participation in our democracy. Now they come in different forms and they have different degrees of success and they represent different groups of people. So there's quite a lot to think about. Now one of the best things for you to do having watched this is to go and find examples, because if you're going to write about pressure groups, that's a key thing that you're going to need. So I'm going to go through the basics with you today. So let's get started. Right. So what is a pressure group? So a pressure group is an organisation that have political goals, normally to a link to a particular interest group or particular section of society. But unlike a political party, they don't actually seek office. So they don't run in elections. They don't try and win power. Instead, they try and influence those who are in power to make decisions that they would like and to influence the general public to agree with their viewpoint. So this might be that they're interested in a particular issue, so they're trying to persuade everyone that they must act more environmentally. Or it might be that they're protecting the interests of a particular group, so they might be looking after, I don't know, teachers or railway workers or doctors, and saying, right, well, we need to these policies need to change to look after this particular group that we represent. They might be representing the rights of minority groups, for example, the LGBTQ community. So there can be lots of different forms. We'll look at that in more detail going forward. But essentially, pressure groups are political organisations, but different to political parties because they don't try and seek power. Now, they are an important example of what we talk about pluralism in democracy. And what they help to do is they help to distribute power across society rather than concentrating it in the hands of an elite, because the pressure groups have various mechanisms or methods that they can use to help impact on the decisions that governments make, the views of the general population, and it gives a whole range of people across society the opportunity to have a voice and to participate in politics. So pressure groups are really important. Right, so there are two essential different types of pressure group. So you get causal groups that campaign on a particular issue or cause. So for a really good example of that is the environment. So they are promoting quite a wide interest, or they are representing groups who cannot protect themselves. So you might get groups like Amnesty International, who are looking after the interests of those who can't do it themselves. Now, membership is often made up of a very wide range of people from a whole range of different backgrounds. They can be international as well as nationally based. They're generally very easy to join, have a very open membership, and sometimes they take the form of charities. And some good examples of that are the RSPCA or Oxfam. So a cause group is looking at a particular cause or issue. And they are different to the second type of pressure group, which is sectional groups. Now they campaign to look after a particular section of society. So an example of that might be the British Medical Association or the various trade unions. So membership therefore is restricted to people who do a particular job, or they might be restricted to a particular group in society. And therefore there is always a degree of self-interest in sectional groups. And you might see this stuff in the news, particularly the reporting of trade unions, where there isn't necessarily wider support for that group, but there is a trade union standing up for them and saying, right, well, this needs to change in our schools, or this needs to change in our hospitals, or this needs to change in our railways, and these workers need better working conditions or better pay or whatever it is. Right, so there are two major types. Now there's a different way of dividing pressure groups as well, which is into status. So we can see on the screen here, we've got a very happy guy with his thumbs up, and then we've got our angry guy shouting from outside. And so our first status you can have as a pressure group is an insider group. Now, if you're an insider group, then you have a relationship with those in power, those in government, and that means that you have access to officials and the people who make decisions. Therefore, getting your message across and the chances of your message being listened to are much higher. Now, this can change if the government changes. So there might be a particular group that is an insider group when there's a Conservative government, but aren't an insider group anymore when there's a Labour government, or vice versa. So, for example, you could argue that trade unions would move from being outsider groups under a Conservative government and would become insider groups under a Labour government, because they would have access to the key decision makers in the Labour Party. So that's the insider group, and in a lot of ways the insider groups are more likely to be successful because they're likely to be talking to the right people, have the right contacts, and also most likely saying something that the people in power are likely to listen to. Now, the outsider groups lack that close relationship with the government, and that means they often have to use different tactics, because they aren't going to get lots of sit-down meetings with ministers and leading civil servants. So they're going to have to use different tactics. And those different tactics might be things like public demonstrations. It might be publicity campaigns. So they might try a whole range of different things to try and win public opinion, and therefore use public opinion, or maybe support in the media, to put pressure on those in power to change their minds and to fit with the idea of the outsider groups. Some outsider groups become insider when the government changes, but some outsider groups are always outsider groups because they're demanding things that are outside the mainstream of political thought in the country. Right. So I mentioned this a bit already. Different pressure groups use different methods. So all pressure groups might use publicity campaigns, including digital campaigns, to try and get their message out there and to win people around. And these might then link into things like people signing petitions and using other methods to show support. They might take part in public demonstrations. So, for example, when I was at university, there was campaigns against university tuition fees, grants not fees, and people, including myself, went out and marched. We've seen public demonstrations recently on things such as the environment, with the Extinction Rebellion. We saw mass demonstrations against Brexit with the anti-Leave campaign. So we often will see big demonstrations. A number of years ago, there was the anti-war campaigns, which were massive, and huge numbers of people marching. Now, they might carry out publicity stunts or use a well-known spokesperson. There was an old pressure group called Fathers for Justice that was known for its publicity stunts as men dressing up as superheroes and doing rather crazy things on public buildings. So there are a number of groups that have a celebrity spokesperson, and this is often a key thing for those, and you might see them on TV adverts where they get a well-known celebrity to speak out, and we see this a lot with the really big kind of fundraising things on TV, where the things like Sports Relief, where you'll have really well-known figures who are promoting it. In extreme cases, you might see civil disobedience, where pressure groups kind of then jump to the other side of the law and take matters into their own hand. And this sometimes can be to do with the nature of the country they're in, and sometimes it is because of the extremity of what they believe. And we see, for example, anti-capitalist demonstrations at G7 meetings. We have seen the Yellow Vest demonstrations in France over the last couple of years. One of the other things that pressure groups might do is they might go on strike. It's particularly useful to trade unions. So if they're not getting anywhere with negotiations with the government, they go on strike, and they can use that method. Pressure groups might take cases to court, particularly big test cases. There's a good way of generating publicity, getting the law changed. They might give evidence at hearings. Often pressure groups have got people in them that are the experts on a particular issue. They campaign on that issue, and other people know about it more than anybody else, and so they'll be brought in. And they might be involved in direct conversations and lobbying the government, and that's ones are uniquely insider. Some of the others are more likely to be used by inside and outside, or outsider than insider. So why do people join a trade union? Well, essentially, they tend to be doing one of these different things. They might be seeking representation. So it might be you believe really strongly in a political issue, but none of the political parties have picked up on it. It's not a major part of any of their manifestos. So you find a pressure group where it is the important issue. It might be that you are seeking representation, a member of a minority group. And again, the mainstream political parties aren't offering that. So we've seen that, for example, in gay rights organizations through the years. It might be something that you really passionately believe in. So something like the environment, and that might get you to get politically involved, or you might not actually feel anything strongly about any political party. You might not even necessarily vote, but there are political issues that you believe in really passionately, and there might be issues, for example, like the environment. You might want to get involved and you might want to participate because of something of the big issue of the day, and you want to do something about it. You don't feel politicians are listening, and so you might want to get involved. And we see this with things like anti-war marches or the anti-Brexit demonstrations, or some of the environmental stuff. So, for example, the strikes by school students over the last couple of years. Sometimes there's like an extra incentive. So if you join the AA, as in the Automobile Association, then they'll come and fix your car, which there's an extra benefit on it, as other than them also being a pressure group that campaigns for drivers' rights. You might join the National Trust, not just because you want to see all these beautiful old buildings maintained, but also because you want to go and visit them, and this will save you some money. Also, you might join a pressure group because you feel you need to, and this might be something like, for example, as a teacher, I'm a member of a trade union, and one of the major reasons for that is job protection and the legal stuff that comes with it. And so you feel, right, I need to, in my job, I need to be a member of that union for all the protections that it brings. So there's lots of different reasons why people join, and this then can manifest itself in the different methods and things I've spoken about already. Right. So why do some succeed and some fail? Well, sometimes it can do with status. So you would imagine that insider groups are more likely to succeed than outsider groups. It might be to do with wealth. A pressure group that's got a load of money to throw around is likely to be able to carry out more effective campaigns, open the right kind of doors, and therefore they're more likely to be successful. A pressure group with huge membership is likely to have more pulling power in democracies like ours, because lots of people equals lots of votes. But it doesn't necessarily always work that way. They might have particular expertise. So actually, when it comes to a particular issue, the government might be going to them and going, right, what do we do about prison reform? And they'll go and talk to the Howard League of Prison Reform because they've done more research and know more about it than anybody else. When it comes to medical issues, they'll go and talk to the BMA. When they want to know about scientific issues, they'll go and talk to key scientific groups. So expertise can be a big bit. Publicity can have a big impact. So how good is that pressure group at getting itself noticed, at getting its message out there? And some are more effective than others at that. How well is it run? The quality of the organisation behind it can really have a big impact. If you've got a really professionally run pressure group, then it will be there at the right time saying the right things. It's not very well run. It might still have a really good message that lots of people agree with, but it's not doing a good job of getting it out there. It's not able to respond to demands that are put on it. And another really big one on this is government position. If the government are not a million miles away from you in terms of what you are telling them they should do, if you are kind of aligned with them fairly closely politically on particular issues, then you've got a decent chance. If you are offering a position and you're shouting at the government saying you really should do this, and it's contrary to their beliefs, it goes against their political ideals, then you are unlikely to be successful, even if you can match all the other criteria that would bring success. So you might have a lot of money behind you, might have a huge membership, you might have really good expertise, gaining huge amounts of publicity, be really well run. But if the government fundamentally disagree with you, then in the short term, you are not going to be successful. Right. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, to comment, and make sure you subscribe. And I will be continuing to work my way through UK politics. I'm also going to be running a range of these on US politics when we get through to the end of the summer. But the other key channel I want you to be looking at is my political ideals, one where I've already got all the stuff on liberalism and socialism, and conservatism and nationalism are on their way. Right. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you now feel that you know some more stuff about pressure groups, and stay tuned for more videos along these lines. Thank you very much.